The Mini, which also appeared at that renowned 1959 motor show, was cheap to run and above all fun to drive. A classless box on wheels, just as at home in Chelsea's Kings Road as it was in the suburbs or Bedsitter-land. Sometimes Minis stopped in heavy rain, and they did leak a little bit. The Mini is very much part of Britain in the swinging 60s, and they were raced and rallied, and would you believe some people even drove them normally. This car is a very, very special Mini. It's the first one ever made. There were in fact 3 prototypes. The first 2 were virtually tested to destruction, and this is the only one that remains. I know it's genuine because I have with me the owner of the car, a former employee of the company, Mr. Ferryman. How long have you had the car? Is it right from the moment that it was in the factory?
Yes, I booked it in the morning it arrived in the department, June 1959. As it came down from Longbridge. It did 3 years in experimental, until experimental was faded out to go to Longbridge.
Yeah.
And then I was privileged to buy this Mini.
Has it been fairly reliable?
It's a very reliable model today, sir. And I've had troubles, all cars have troubles, but it's never let us down. And I've been all over Great Britain, into Scotland with it, and we've always got home quite comfortably and safely.
And how far has this gone?
Yeah, I think that's the original speedometer. It read 600 miles when I drove it home on May the 8th, 1962, when the department let me have it.
Interesting to see. I'd forgotten that they had starter buttons on the floor. And
yes.
It's
yes,
all fairly primitive with sliding windows.
Oh, yes, yes.
But apart from the fact it was a prototype, it is just the same as many of the early Minis.
Exactly. Well, no, I don't think a production model was ever like it. No, it couldn't be repeated.
Would you ever part with it?
Well, I'm 80 years of age. I don't know how long I can keep it now, but I don't know what I'd do if I went in a garage and it wasn't there.
Few cars are sensational. The most sensational car ever made here.
26 years and 94,000 miles on, the first Mini ever, built as a one-off for test engineers, is still on the road. Today it's examined again, this time as it goes under the hammer at a car auction in Farnborough. Its owner for the past 23 years, Bernard Ferryman, was a record clerk at the Morris Experimental Test Station in Oxford. He'll never forget the day the little fellow, as he calls it, rolled into his life.
The 8th of June, 1959, when it was brought in by 2 Longbridge drivers into our department at Cowley, Morris Cowley. Experimental department, Cowley.
From then on you were in charge of taking in the records of the engineers as they worked on it?
Every movement of this car and the test work, the Cholgrove Fields, Midnights, whatever, is all in the log books, which may be in a works office today. It finished up with 2 big box files when we finished, all on this particular car. I used to run a rota for all cars that had to be sold after their useful purposes in the department. It may be a French car, German, whatever, and our members of our staff would buy them, you see, after they were done up on the pits. So this was taken up over the pit for me, and 2 nice mechanics put everything right for me to drive home, and I drove it home on the 8th of May, 1962.
To be fair, though, the little fella is showing his age. The elements have no respect for British motoring history, and the rust-proofing and paint applied in the immersion dip at Longbridge in 1959 are wearing thin. So how much will you have to pay this ferryman for his car? Bernard paid £296 in 1962. An enthusiast going to today's auction can expect to pay more than £1,000. You must be proud of it, though. It is the forerunner of the modern Mini.
It'll stay with me till I go. Of course it will. The memory of it and everything. Be interesting where it goes from now.
Oh, wonderful old Mini. Jimmy Greaves has joined us this morning, but before we talk about what's on the telly, did you have a Mini?
Yes, yes.
He looked funny in it
I
too.
still have as well.
Oh,
in the changing rooms. No, yes, that's correct. Quite right, Stan. You sussed us out. Yeah, we've all had Minis in our family at one time. First Mini we bought cost 450 quid.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Which was a lot of money in those days, Jim.
It was a lot of money in those days.
Did you call it a name? I mean, were you particularly fond of it? Because people seem to have a great nostalgia for their Mini.
No, well, in those days, of course, it wasn't nostalgia. It was a new car, wasn't it? By Alec Izigonis, isn't it? He was the man who designed it.
I
think everyone had one, didn't they?
Well, I didn't have a new one. I had a second-hand one. It would cost me 25 quid, and it had no floor in the bottom, you know. And I used to put a carpet over because I could see the cat's eyes as I was going along the road, you know. And I remember going around Liverpool, around a corner once, put my hand out, and someone stole my watch. Didn't have blinkers.
How much did your first car cost, Derek?
That must have been about $3.50 second-hand. Yeah, that was a Mini. I learned to drive on a Mini. I can still remember that huge gear stick. It was like holding a walking stick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, very long.
What about your first car, Annie? How much did it cost?
My mum...